All right, and welcome back everybody. So today's the day you're going to learn how to play Hey Joe, like you hear it on the record by the late great Jimi Hendrix. I think this was the Jimi Hendrix Experience's first single, and I know it's a favorite and a great instructive song in the whole classic rock genre. So let's do a lesson on that. Hey, if you haven't done so already, I appreciate it if you jump down and click the subscribe button and ring the bell. It lets you know every time I drop new content, which I do every single week. All of my videos have jump links in them, so you can go right to the part of the lesson that you want to see at any time and bypass some of my yapping. And if you're looking for other ways to support the channel, I really appreciate that. There's super thanks, which is like throwing a tip in the tip jar right below there. Also, you can join my Patreon page where I have chord charts and tabs for all the lessons that I do on YouTube. Would love to see you there. And also there's some fun merchandise in the store. All the links are right below in the description. Check it out. So Hey Joe, great song for learning and building some chops on guitar, and there's some very sort of foundational stuff that Jimmy's style sort of starts to leak out in here a little bit. And the solo is not too crazy, not too hard, and so it's one of these great classic rock songs that's very instructive, and you can learn a lot from it. So let's get to it. So in terms of tone, I'm guessing he's on a Strat. For me, the sound that gets closest for me is when I'm on the neck pickup on my Strat. Now, in the room here, I've actually got two amps going on. I've got my 64 Super Reverb, and I've also got my 50-watt Marshall going on here too, sort of mixing those tones together. I have no idea what he used in the studio, but what I do know is this is a lot cleaner than you typically think of when you think of Jimi Hendrix and all the crazy, everything on 10 and, speakers blowing and all that kind of stuff. This song is not that at all. If you listen to it, it's very clean, but still very powerful. So this is kind of the tone that I've got going on. It's something close to that. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to nail Jimmy's tone. I'm not. But when you listen to the record, it's way more clean. There's hardly any distortion on that I can tell. Okay, so we're going to talk about the intro, and we'll talk about the chord verses, and then of course we'll tackle the solo. Okay, so the intro, what a great intro, right? So right off the bat, this is Jimmy just sort of jamming a little bit in E. So just sort of a classic blues riff that finds its way into so much of, blues rock. So it's all sort of in that family. But it's very simple. You're going to have your finger on the 3rd fret B string, and you're going to let your open first string ring open, right, like that, and you're just going to slide it up from 3 to 5 while letting that first string open, right, and you're going to go back down. Whoops, like that. And then you're going to hop over to your 4th fret on your G string and pull it all the way down to your 2nd fret. And this time you're letting your 2nd string ring open. And then open G. And then 2nd fret D. Okay, so that's the first part. And then he ends it just with an E chord. And I think he doesn't, I don't think he plays that G string note in your E chord. So it's sort of the way I do it is I make my E and I just sort of mute this 3rd string just to get that. Right? Then we're going to come up here to 5th fret on 5th and 4th string. And we're going to pick, I do an up pick. And the way that riff is going to go, it's going to start on the 5th, then it's going to go to the 4th, and then it's going to go to the 2nd. Right? So. slide into it. Right? So that whole thing so far. Right? Again, I'm ending it on that to get those two strings on your E chord. And I can't tell if he actually ends down there or if he comes up here. Because it sort of sounds like he's up there, because the next thing he's going to do is up here. So the other way you could end this riff is to go like that. And then the last little riff part goes. So I'm just barred across on 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string. I'm barred all the way, but I'm only going to play the 4th, 3rd, and the 2nd string. I'm not gonna play that 1st string. So I'm barred over here on the 7th fret, and I'm hammering on with my ring finger on the 9th fret on the D string. It's probably easiest if you start with an up pick. So it'll be up, down, up. So that last up, you can just get that B string and not rake all the way across and accidentally hit that 1st string. So like this. But you want to hit that with power and authority, right? So that you're coming in with the drums at the same part and the bass. Everybody's doing that at the same time. So, rounding out that whole intro riff. There you go. So that's the intro. Now the chords for this whole song, there's 5 chords in the whole song. It's C, G, D, A, and E. That's the whole song. The whole song. And the great part of how Jimmy plays this, and you know why I think this is a great instructive song, is because the way Jimmy plays it, it's very, very loose. He's never playing the same thing in the same way twice when he's doing the rhythm guitar part. He really isn't. But he's got some things that are sort of core and common throughout. Like to my ear, I think he's playing bar chords. So he plays, I believe, he's playing that bar chord G instead of an open chord G. Because you can control when the strings are going to ring out more when you're doing this bar chord. Now Jimmy's got giant hands, so he's usually thumbing over when he's playing, you know, this version of a G. He's playing it like this. And we'll see why in just a little bit. Now you don't have to. It'll sound great if you... It's fine. If you can do the thumb over, it allows you to be a little more flexible with your pinky, which will come into play in just a sec. Things like that. Okay? Then D, A, again, thumb over, if you can, and then your E. So I'm not going to go through every single verse and do a note by note on his strumming, because I couldn't. But there are some things thematically that he's doing when you're on certain chords that I wanted to call out that I think were interesting, right? So one thing you'll hear when he's on his C, he really picks that first root note. So he's always, you know, hitting that to announce that. He hits that root note. Okay, then he's switching over to G. So sometimes he's playing just a normal G. And then he connects the chords a lot. So, you know, the next chord is a D. So he's getting from a G position, and he's sort of doing something to connect the chords a lot of the time. So he'll do something like this. Right? He'll just go. he'll do figures like that, but he'll, not every time, but you'll find him connect the chords a lot. So. And everything's gonna build, okay? So you'll see a lot of guys play Hey Joe and they'll go into like full Jimmy mode, right? Every single time. So if you listen to the record, I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. But that's not what he's doing. He's not doing all that on the Hey Joe record itself. He's pretty tame. He has a little bit of that stuff, but nowhere near that. I think it gets way too busy if you just do that all the time. So you want to stay a little tame on the first verse, add a little second on the second verse. So it might be something like this. Right? So it's very subtle. It's just adding a pinky 2 frets up on your first string on your G. Something to that effect. Jimmy uses that chord a lot. You know, later on it's a... he does that all over the place, right? Way more pronounced. But here it's just... So add a little something, a little extra hot sauce on the second time maybe you go through. And you can kind of pull off. Maybe do that on your D. He does a little bit of that. As it gets more and more throughout the verse, you can hear him really dig into that E. You know, because everything is sort of building on an arc throughout the song. So some of the things that he does when he gets to an E chord, sometimes he sprinkles in this. He has something like that. So that's that part of an E. He also has this little riff that he does, which is really cool. You're just sliding up. So you're sliding up to 4th and 3rd fret on the 3rd and 2nd string. Yeah. So it's sort of, you have an open E. So that's part of it, right? So that sounds like this. Something to that effect. And again, something you can play around on the D chord. He sort of does this. So one of those times he does. Anyway, the great thing is it's just a jam, right? So you just play around with those chords a little bit. And the trick is to stay sort of tame in the beginning, add these little things to some of the chords as you're going along later on in the verse, and it builds more, tension and builds more energy throughout the body of the song. So that's my overall guidance on when you're playing that. One of the things that's interesting when I was listening to this, getting ready for the lesson, I was listening on headphones, and it was, immediately apparent there's sort of 2 guitar tracks going on, I guess, if you will. There's the rhythm track where it's all the chords. Right? And then there's this other track where it's almost like Jimmy's going to record his solo, over that backing track. And he's just listening to the whole thing, and they keep the microphones on the amp the whole time. And so, he's listening to it, and then every once in a while, he's doing this. Just sort of keeping time and adding a little something, and then he'll throw in a riff, Those are the things on that second track, which I thought was interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the solo. So everything in this solo happens on 4 strings. You don't play your 5th string or your 6th string. Everything is on 4, 3, 2, or 1. And it's very, very straight ahead minor pentatonic. So I'll run through it once and then break down each part. Here we go. Okay, I might have added an extra note on there, but let's talk about each one of those parts. So the first part is starting with a bend into the 12th fret E, right? So everything here is E minor pentatonic. Those are all the notes. And he starts it off. Is the first one. The second one. I love the end of that there. That. I don't think it's. I think it's. I just love that. And then he ends it with. Follows it with a. Right, so it's. Oh, so I lied. So there is a little bit of a 5th string on there. All right, then we're to the next part. He does a quick little choked off and then a longer one. So this next part is interesting because I think he's laying his index finger across the 12th fret here. I think, you know, maybe across the 4 strings, but I'm just doing it across the first 3 strings. And he's playing some notes above his barred finger, and he's letting everything else ring out open. So it's like every time he's plucking all the 3 strings, regardless of what his finger is doing up here. So it's something like that. That's how he ends it. Or something in that little box right there. And then he's going to bend up. Love that one. Love that one. You bend up here on your G string. One more time. And then you finish with. Although I think he gets both of them. But every part of that, you really want to play with authority. There's no light picking going on here at all. Every one of these is like he's just hitting it super hard. Yeah, he's hitting it hard every time. And then we close it out with this great little, I don't know if it's, you know, I don't know if he wrote this little bass line and he's doubling it or whatever. I'm sure he did, right? But we're going back to our verse chords, right? C, G, D, A. But we're just going to play the root and we're going to chromatically climb to the next root of the next chord. So started with C, and I'm muting a little bit. I'm not letting it ring. Although you could, it would sound a little tough, but I think a little overpowering. But right, so C, E, F, F sharp, G. Now our next chord is a D. So we're going to chromatically climb up to that D, starting from 4 frets below, or 3 frets below. Right? Everything is 1, 2, 3, 4. next note is an A, so we're going to start 3 frets down from that. Our next note is an E, again, 3 frets down. So great finger exercise, right? 1 finger per fret. That gets you to E. And then some of the, we're back to the Jimmy jamming and just being loose with the chords, and he's doing. He's just playing around with that. And that's really it. The rest of the song is just going around with the more sort of verse formations. And it takes it all the way out. So that is Hey Joe. Did you learn anything new today? I hope you did. So if you like this and you haven't done so already, jump down right now, click subscribe and ring the bell. Let you know every time when I drop new content, which I do every single week. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this. And if there's another song you want me to do a similar lesson on, let me know that. Love to hear from you. Okay, until next week, take care everybody.